Hey, what is happening, you poorly packaged Pancham? Some new cards just got revealed for Japan's Ruler of the Black Flame set, which I believe is releasing next week fully. I'm not 100% sure. Most of these cards, but maybe not all of them, should be coming out in our set, Obsidian Flames, which comes out August 11th, which actually isn't too far away from now. It's under a month. We're under 4 weeks away from Obsidian Flames. I'll be in Japan at the World Championships when it does release, so I won't be playing with the new cards until a week or so after they actually come out. So I'm a little bit disappointed with that, but I'm excited to be in Japan for the World Championships in a couple weeks. Before we take a look at the card, just want to give a big shout out as always to Full Grip Games. You can find them over at fullgripgames.com. If you ever need any Pokemon singles or sealed products, be sure to head over there. Anything you buy over there directly supports me over here on the YouTube channel, the live stream, all the content that I make. So yeah, go check them out, fullgripgames.com. Not only can you buy Pokemon products over there, but you can also sell them your Pokemon cards that you don't want. All that bulk or Vs or non-competitive cards. I'm sure a lot of you that are listening to this video are competitive players, so I'm sure you got a lot of Pokemon cards that you don't really want anymore, but you're not doing anything with them. They're sitting in your closet. Go check it out, fullgripgames.com. The top tabs area up there, click on the buy list and sell Full Grip your cards. And with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at these cards. Gonna skip a couple here off the rip. Some of these are not that great. Take a look at the Glimmora. I actually was gonna mention this in my last video, but I forgot to. It's got an interesting ability. Besides that, there's not too much going on, but 270 HP. It is a stage 1 fighting for the poisonous gem for 140. Your opponent's active is now poison, so you're probably 2-hit KOing pretty much everything in the format, but 270 HP, there's quite a few things out there that can one-hit KO you, so that's not good. But it's got a really cool, very powerful ability. The ability is really, really strong. Is it enough to ever consider playing this as a deck itself? Probably not. Maybe as like a 1/1 tech, though. As long as this Pokemon is in your active spot, your opponent's bench is limited to 3. So if they have more than 3 Pokemon on their bench, and you put the Glimmora in your active, they have to discard down to 3 bench Pokemon. So specifically be pretty strong against like Lost Box in the early game, but probably the #1 deck that this is best against would be something like a Gardevoir deck right now. I'm sure there'll be other decks in the future that this is super strong against, but those are the ones that come to mind right now that would be pretty powerful against. But like I said, the attack, it's okay. 270 HP, not surviving that much. It is weak to grass, which is a good weakness to have right now. Not that much grass stuff running around causing havoc, but I don't think it's going to be a deck on its own. It'll be like maybe an inclusion as a 1/1. You send it into your active on key moments and key situations. Your opponent has to discard their bench, and then you can switch it out of the active, most likely, or escape rope it out of the active. And the escape rope could be a pretty cool combo, because then they would discard some of their bench Pokemon, and then they'd probably be left with just good bench Pokemon at that point, things they want to keep, especially if they were working with a bench of 5 initially. And then you play escape rope, and now you force one of those better Pokemon into the active. Whereas before, if you played the escape rope, they would send up one of the Pokemon they don't really care too much about. So yeah, the Glimmora EX, not going to be that strong on its own, I don't think. Could be a cool 1/1 tech in a deck potentially. The Togekiss has got a really cool, potentially powerful ability. It is very interesting. I don't think we've had an ability quite like this, maybe ever. Once during your turn after your attack, which is the interesting part about this, this ability triggers after you've attacked. You may draw until you have 8 cards in your hand. So it is a draw support Pokemon, but it doesn't function like any draw support Pokemon that I think we've ever had before. So it's really, really cool, really interesting. Precious Gift ability. Once on your turn after your attack, you may draw until you have 8 cards in your hand. One of the problems with an ability like this is it doesn't really play very well around hand disruption. If you got hand disrupted going into your turn, it can't draw you any cards to give you a more powerful turn, and then because it draws the cards after you've attacked going into your opponent's turn, they could disrupt that hand of the 8 cards you just drew into, and you don't even ever get to utilize them out of that hand. So also, it's a stage 2. I don't think the Togekiss is great, but it has a pretty decent attack to go with it as well. Especially if you're playing it in a deck with double turbo energy, colors for 110, moving energy from this Pokemon to one of your bench Pokemon. Not a bad attack on a support Pokemon, but a stage 2 that draws cards after you've attacked, not playing around hand disruption very well. I don't think is that really that good, but it is a very unique ability, and I love seeing stuff like this where it's cool, unique, makes you stop and think about it. We want more of that, as always. I think I say that a lot. That exact line I say all the time. I talked about the Reverum EX in my video yesterday, so if you didn't catch that, then, well, go just watch my yesterday's video. I talk all about Reverum EX and a couple different ways you could play the card deck, and I think it's a really cool card. I think it's got a lot of potential. Check out that video, yesterday's video, on the YouTube channel. Now, this is the card that everyone has kind of lost their mind over, because we've had a card that did something very similar to this a long time ago. The Pidgeot EX here, 280 HP, is the stage 2 quick search. Once in your turn, you may search your deck for a card and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your deck. You can't use more than one quick search ability each turn. Getting any one card out of your deck is a very powerful ability, but it's on a stage 2, and it doesn't have a great attack. 2 colorless energy, 120, you may discard a stadium card in play. So this used to be on a stage 2 Pokemon way back in the day, 2006, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. I didn't play back then. I kind of just play with old decks sometimes, and this card is in quite a few of them. And it was really, really good back then, but that's because most of the decks back then were stage 2 decks that kind of just had excess rare candy floating around in their deck as you played through games. Currently, in the current format, we don't have, or in the current meta, I should say, we don't have a ton of stage 2 decks, besides Gardevoir, that play a lot of rare candy, that kind of have the rare candies kind of floating around to be used on different stage 2 Pokemon besides the one you're trying to mainly set up. So I don't think the Pidgeot EX will be very good initially, and maybe ever competitively. But as we shift into a more of a stage 2 EX focus, which I'm sure we will, a rotation or 2 from now. Lost Box is around for another rotation, so it might take 2 rotations, but we have another card in here that we can talk about that might actually be shutting Lost Box down sooner than we thought. And if the past of Pokemon going out of their way to try and shut down certain decks, like the amount of cards they've printed that actually just shut down Mew or attempt to shut down Mew, but somehow Mew still survives and thrives and wins tournaments. So either that shows that nothing you throw at Lost Box is going to stop it, or they're going to try and throw a lot of stuff at Lost Box to stop it, and we'll have to see which comes out on top. But the Pidgeot, not going to be good initially. As we get into more stage 2 focus decks that have excess rare candies to work with, having a super powerful ability like this, access to it every single turn, just chilling on your bench, is pretty good. So I think we will get to a point where this is played in some stage 2 decks, but we're not going to be there on release of the Pidgeot EX. The Flamigo actually is kind of a cool card. For 2 colorless energy, it does 60 damage. If you have any Flamigo on your bench, it does 60 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Once again, when we get to a more stage 2 focused meta, something like this, 60-60 for 2 colors, if you could set that up really aggressively, turn 1, turn 2, and there's decks out there with 60 HP basic Pokemon. Looking at like the Frigibacks right now would be the ones that come to mind. Sometimes there's some rolls to 60 HP, but if there was a stage 2 deck that was mostly running 60 HP basic Pokemon, something like a quick Flamigo for 2 prize cards on 2 basic Pokemon could be pretty sick. And here is the Stadium card, one of maybe the first of many cards to try and shut Lost Box down, or is this just kind of coincidentally lines up to be pretty good against Lost Box? We'll find out in future sets, or until Lost Box rotates, if anything else comes out between now and then, how much they're trying to hate on Lost Box. But this might be the start of it all with the Pokemon League HQ. The attack cost of each basic Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponent's, is colorless more. Now, I'm sure reading this initially, you're like, well, I mean, that's kind of annoying, but there's like Mirage Gate and Lost Box, and sometimes they don't even attach for turn to certain Pokemon, so they go out of the way to attach for, like a Cram. You know, you just attach to Cram, Cram's attacking fine. But I think where the combo of this card kind of, the combo with this card that kind of starts to shut Lost Box down and make things a little bit more difficult, there's a decent amount of Stadium cards in Lost Box decks right now. They play like, or Stadium removal cards, 2 Pokestops, and usually like 3 Lost Vacuum. The problem will become, though, if you're getting Iono'd pretty low, 4-3, and the Pokemon League HQ is being put into play at the same time, that is going to be a lot to overcome. Of course, with them knocking out your Pokemon as well. They're going to be knocking out your active, League HQ, Iono. That's going to be a lot to deal with. And we're getting pushed further and further, I feel like, to the point where Lost Tina will maybe be the only relevant Lost Zone deck. And probably the best one eventually. And it might be as soon as when this card releases, to be honest, because this could be very powerful decks in like Gardevoir to help you kind of shut down Lost Box. I'm sure there's other decks that could take advantage of this to try and get the upper hand over Lost Box. Pokemon League HQ, combo that with some Iono. That sounds like it's pretty good against Lost Box. If I was a Lost Box player, I wouldn't want to go up against that combo. So if the combo is in enough decks, could be bye-bye Lost Box as soon as the next set release. And yeah, Lost Tina might be the new king of the Lost Zone. It might be, it's about time. Lost Tina has been around for a while. I'm kind of waiting for its moment, I feel like. Ortega, look at your opponent's hand, choose one card that you find there and put it on the bottom of their opponent's deck. Then your opponent may draw one card. I actually think this card is super, super powerful. I'm excited for this one. Not almost like in an extreme control sense. It is a very control-esque card, of course, when you read it. But if you could play like a 4 of in this in kind of a more standard attacking type deck, that could be a super powerful card to combine with knockouts turn to turn and potentially completely shutting your opponent out of the game by like removing their only draw supported from their hand or something like that. Now they do get to draw a card, so they're gonna have +1 card to work with through that. And if they have a draw engine on the board, like I don't know if you're playing against Gardevoir and they got Curlias or they got B-Barrel, obviously not gonna be super, super strong, but I don't know. This card seems really, really cool. Unfortunately, there's no way to really combo it in tandem with Hand Disruption. We don't have like Lieutenant Surge's strategy in the format, so you can go like Surge, Iono, Ortega. That also might be too good, so maybe it's a good thing we don't have that available to us. But I think this card is really, really cool. I think it's really powerful, and I think it can be used outside of just straight control type decks. Geeta? I think I got that right. Let me know in the comment section. Did I pronounce the name right? Geeta. Until the end of your next turn, until the end of the turn you play this card, none of your Pokemon can attack, including Pokemon you put into place. Search your deck for up to 2 basic energy cards and attach them to one of your Pokemon, then shuffle your deck. So when you play this card, you can't attack anymore that turn. But the trade-off is you get to put 2 basic energy cards in play on your Pokemon onto one of your Pokemon. Actually, when the first time I read this, I thought it was you could put them wherever you wanted on your Pokemon. So this is a little bit more limiting than I thought when I initially read that, but still potentially a very powerful card. This card combos really, really well with Lumineon because, I mean, once the game starts going and getting moving, you're going to want to be attacking turn to turn. So when you go first, this is not a deck you're probably going to be playing on your second turn, but maybe depending on the deck, if you're like a deck that doesn't attack till turn 3, you could be playing a count of this in your deck. I think this would be really powerful in some decks. Nothing that I can think of off the top of my head. You're not going to play this in Gardevoir. You're not going to play this in Lost Box. You're not going to play this in Arceus decks. This is not a card that I think we'll be seeing play from initially on release. But moving forward, as long as we have something like Lumineon in the format, so that when you go second and you feel like you're a little bit behind, you know, being able to play a supporter like this to get a bunch of extra energy and play on your first turn through Lumineon to search this out of your deck, that's a pretty powerful combo. Especially you can combine this with something like a Squawkabilly as well, so you don't feel like you're not getting anything else done on your turn. Maybe you Lumineon with it for this, Squawkabilly, draw a bunch of cards, whatever it might be, somehow find the Geeta, get some extra energy in play, and then go into your opponent's second turn, following up with your second turn, you're not quite as far behind as you might have been because you didn't get to go first. So something like this, really, really cool supporter card. Like I said, on release, this doesn't feel like it's that powerful in any of the decks that are currently top meta decks, but moving forward, as long as we have something like Lumineon in the format that can search this out turn 1, I think it can definitely be abused in some decks moving forward. All right, that's going to do it. That's all the new cards to take a look at here. Let me know what you think. Are you excited for the Pidgeot EX? I'm kind of meh. I mean, I didn't play back then. It's mostly all the old heads who are kind of losing their minds that the Pidgeot exists. Is the Poke League HQ enough to shut down Lost Box? Probably in combination with Iono, of course. So not just on its own, but 4 of those in any deck. That, even if you don't play a super heavy Iono or Judge count, just 4 of these in a deck sounds really, really annoying for Lost Box to deal with, to be honest. So that on its own could be enough to push Lost Box out of the meta. Just a couple decks playing like 4 of these, so who knows. Is there any other obvious combos that you think I missed as well with any of these cards? Anything super strong you think that I kind of overlooked? Let me know in the comment section down below. And with that said, catch y'all in the next video.